Hey guys, before I get started on this episode, the Golden State with Mates Patreon has a new lower price, $2.99 and $4.99 per month memberships where you can access up to 5 bonus podcast episodes every week, a daily Warriors newsletter, and get yourself in the draw to win monthly giveaways. I'll leave a link in the description. It would be great if you could go and check it out. Coming up on this episode, the Warriors get a scrappy but impressive victory over the Phoenix Suns on Thursday night. The major silver lining to Jimmy Butler's season-ending knee injury and what the rotation will look like with the inclusion of Kristaps Porzingis after the trade deadline. Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates podcast. Feels like we can take a little bit of a breather somewhat after the deadline and what was a hectic period, obviously, with all the Giannis rumors and then the eventual Kristaps Porzingis trade that sent Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield to the Atlanta Hawks. And of course, we can't forget about Trayce Jackson-Davis going to the Toronto Raptors as well. Obviously, it's been quite a disappointing and underwhelming few days for the Warriors, just in terms of not getting Giannis and then getting Porzingis, a player who I actually like Kristaps Porzingis, but he's obviously got huge injury concerns, and he's not the type of player that's going to lift the Warriors into any kind of contention. And moving forward across the later stage of the season, I kind of looked at it and thought, what's the point of all this? Like, why are we excited and looking forward to watching Warrior basketball for the last 30 games of the season? And I thought Thursday night's game against the Suns was a timely reminder that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be championship or bust. And I think a lot of us, and absolutely rightly so, like I understand we as fans look at Steph Curry being nearly 38 years old and want the franchise to maximize Steph and at least give him the chance of a deep playoff run, right? That's all we kind of want. It doesn't necessarily need to be a championship, but give him a chance in the playoffs. And unfortunately, the Jimmy Butler injury has just completely ruined that. And I think what I've learned from last night's game was that the quicker we come to the realization that the Jimmy Butler injury ruined the entire season and ruined any chance the Warriors had of being some kind of threat in the playoffs, the quicker we can start enjoying some of the smaller things that could become bigger things in the future in terms of little developments here and there, just the way the team plays, the way they scrap and fight hard, and just trying to enjoy that without kind of thinking about the notion of, well, what's the point because the team's not a championship contender. And again, you just got to try, and sometimes in life, you got to try and take some joy out of the little things. Even again, if you look at it and say, well, what's the point in that? Like, what does that win against the Suns do in the grand landscape of things? Really, like, this team is going to probably still battle just to make the playoffs. They're definitely going to be in the play-in tournament, and they're probably going to get kicked out in the first round of the playoffs. So what does it really do for us? But if you take that path, then you're not going to find enjoyment in anything. What I came away from that game against the Suns was that was one of the more enjoyable and impressive wins of the season. I was kind of watching, obviously a good start. The Warriors just threw up a bunch of threes in the first half, built a 4-point lead by the main break. Third quarter again was a disaster, and you're kind of looking at this and like, geez, the offense here is just woeful and a really tough watch. And then even in the fourth, I don't think the offense was explosive by any means, but they scrapped hard. They showed some grit. They completely locked down the Suns, who scored 2 points in the last 7 minutes and 20 seconds of the game. And then, like, I think the final play epitomized how the Warriors got back into the game, right? They forced Dylan Brooks into an incredibly difficult step-back three. There's a fight for the rebound. GP2 loses it. Horford, nearly 40 years old, dives out of bounds, kind of throws it up to keep it in play. Moses Moody scraps, doesn't even really have control of the ball, but tips it to Melton. Melton goes up court and makes another layup at the buzzer. Like, it was really good to see. And I think, again, we kind of just got to take our mindset away from the championship or bust notion, the all or nothing, and just say, yeah, you know what? Let's understand the Jimmy Butler injury has ruined this season from a championship standpoint or even a deep playoff run standpoint. And just try and find some joy in the little things and some fun and some entertainment, some interest in the little things. Because otherwise, it's going to be a long last 30 games. And it still might be. There are going to be periods where we watch this and be like, geez, like I'm not finding this very enjoyable right now. We've scored, the last 2 third quarters against the 76ers and the Suns. They've combined for 33 points. Like they have been an incredibly tough watch offensively. But you know what? Like they're going to give themselves if they fight hard and they play defense like they did in the last period, then they're going to give themselves a chance. And I actually like the fact as well. Like Steve Kerr's come out and said after the game, like Jimmy Butler was our only interior threat. We've got like no interior threat now. Now Porzingis, when on the floor, is going to provide some kind of interior threat, not because he's some great like post-up scorer or interior guy, but because he's his sheer size, he's 7'2", 7'3", right? He's going to be able to, finish shots above smaller defenders in the paint, or like he doesn't even have to really jump to be a lob threat. Like he's going to provide some kind of element there in terms of interior scoring. But Steve Kerr said, like, we lost that with Jimmy. So why not just chuck up a bunch of threes and then give ourselves like a puncher's shot? Because if we go like 40% from three, then, we could beat a lot of teams, right? So I like it. A lot of fans are going to be frustrated and be like, how come they're just jacking up threes with no even consideration of getting to the rim? And it's like, well, because blokes, one, can't get to the rim, and two, when they do, they can't really finish. Like aside from Steph, no one's really got great like finishing skill. Like Melton could do it a little bit, I guess, but like this team just lacks that. And so why try and force something that you just can't do? Why not just stick to your strength? And I'm not even sure like the 3-point shooting is a huge strength necessarily outside Steph, but all these guys like live on the perimeter, right? Horford is a 3-point shooter. Moody is a 3-point shooter. Porzingis, when he comes in, he's kind of a 3-point shooter despite being 7'3". Gee, I want to talk about in a minute, kind of a 3-point shooter. Same with Will Richard, Quentin Post, Seth Curry when he comes back. Like, this is a team that is going to live on the perimeter, and you're going to have games where you're absolutely ice cold, and that means you have no chance of winning the game. Fair enough. But then there's other games as well where, it's the great equalizer. You might shoot 40% from three, and if you're taking 50 to 60 attempts, then that's going to be hard for the opposition to overcome. So, I don't know. I just thought it was a great reminder that, hey, we can still get some enjoyment out of this season. Yes, it's not going to lead to anything in terms of a deep playoff run necessarily, but like we're fans at the end of the day. We want to see our team win, and this team is still capable of winning some games. And just playing with some pride, I think, is the most important thing. And that's the biggest element to me is like once you start playing without pride, once you stop giving 110% effort, that's when I, as a fan, am going to get really, really frustrated and pissed off. As long as you're giving that, one, you're going to give yourself a chance, and two, as a fan, at least I've got that to look forward to. I can say, all right, I know what I'm going to get from my team on a game-by-game basis. Yes, we might not shoot the ball well one game. Yes, we lack talent, but if you're going to fight and scrap, play hard defense, it's kind of all you can ask for, really, when you know that with a $50 million player, 6-time All-Star on the sideline, you're already up against it kind of thing. So, I don't know. It was nice that happened straight after the trade deadline when there was so much angst and frustration and disappointment. The fact they were able to come out and produce what they did in that comeback in the fourth quarter was really impressive. So kudos to Steve Kerr, kudos to all the players that were out there on Thursday night for playing as hard as they did and moving on from what happened at the deadline, losing Kuminga and Hill and TJD, and just fighting how they did. So congratulations. Well done. Like that's, I was very proud. I was very proud of the effort that, my team put in, I suppose. And I think we should all be proud of that. The Jimmy Butler injury, of course, has ruined everything, essentially. Everything we look at now, it's like, well, Jimmy's injured, so it doesn't really matter. But the one silver lining to this has been quite an extraordinary development over the past couple of weeks. And that's Guy Santos, who is suddenly quite a good NBA player. And I think a lot of fans would say, well, if he got this opportunity beforehand, we would have seen it beforehand, which is maybe fair enough. But the Jimmy Butler injury and now the Kuminga aspect of this with him moving on as well opens up a huge runway for Gee to become not only a certified rotation player, but actually one of Golden State's more important players, which seems incredible to think about, but it's actually kind of true. And if you look at his minutes over the past few games, so this is the last 5, or even if we go 6 games, Gee has played 20 and a half minutes, 26 minutes, 21 and a half minutes, 25 and a half minutes, 26 and a half minutes, and 36 minutes. I'm assuming his 36 minutes yesterday against the Suns were a career high. He's now scored in double digits in 5 straight games, 11, 16, 16, 13, 18. And I think the way we view him is completely transforming here from, I think we always looked at him as, oh, great hustle guy, will come in, play 8-10 minutes of really hard basketball, will defend hard, will get you a couple of extra possessions with offensive rebounds, will rebound hard in general, all this kind of grit hustle stuff, which is great, but it really only gets you so far as an NBA rotation player. Like, you can come out and be an 8 to 10 minute guy, cool, but like, you want to be more than that, right? And I think what we've seen over the past 5 games is a guy that has a really versatile skill set. And that's incredibly valuable, specifically to the Warriors, when you're talking about how many guys have the Warriors had in the past few years, and even now to some degree, who are really one-way players. And that's, in fairness, the case for a lot of role players in the league. A lot of role players make their money and get into their position in the league because they are either like they're an elite shooter or they're a lockdown guy on defense. But usually, like, a lot of, elite shooters can be liabilities on defense, or a lot of, elite, a Gary Payton II, for example, who at his best, going back to the championship season, was an elite defender, but like still a limitation offensively. Even Draymond now, like Draymond's a role player, okay? And he could still be a high level defender, okay? He finished 3rd in defensive player of the year last season. Has he had a bit of a drop off this season? Yes. But like, he's still a high level defender, but he's like an offensive limitation, right? So a lot of these guys fit into that basket. As Gee kind of actually does a bit of everything, and I wouldn't say he does anything at an absolute elite level, but like, if you're reasonable and good at a lot of different elements, and if teams can't pick at you on either side of the floor, then suddenly you're a very valuable rotation player in the NBA. And it's going to be super interesting. This development, it's going to be fascinating to see how far it goes, because this guy's a restricted free agent in the offseason. I don't think at this point yet opposing teams are going to be keying in on this and saying, that's a guy who's a free agent in the offseason, restricted, albeit. Like, what's he worth? Should we try and pick that guy off? To me, he's still like an under-the-radar guy. But if we keep seeing what we have in the last 5-6 games from him, then all of a sudden, like, the Warriors might have to fight off or pay a little bit more to retain Gee in the offseason than what they otherwise would have thought. He's just got a really balanced game. Steve's spoken about the confidence. Steve spoke yesterday about how, like, oh, we're going to start running plays through him almost with Jimmy out. And I was like, huh? Like, it's like really weird, but it's kind of working right now. He's the 2nd leading scorer on this team in the last 5 games. And I think you'll find, if I just look it up quickly now, I think he might have scored the most points in the last 5 games, because Steph's only played 2 of them. I'm just double checking now. He's averaging 14.8 points, 4 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 1.4 steals, 1.4 blocks, shooting 64.4% from the floor and 47.8% from the 3-point range. Yeah, he's scored 74 points in the last 5 games, which isn't a whole lot, but it's actually the most on the team, which again goes to the limitations of this team. Like, for all the positive things I'm saying about Gee, it's kind of goes to show you where the Warriors are at when he's the leading scorer over the last 5 games and 2nd in terms of average points behind Steph. But I don't know, like, this guy is not just a hustle guy anymore. He's got legitimate skill. Like, offensively, he's got, like, yes, that he's not going to stick shooting 47.8% from 3 like he has the last 5 games. But his jump shot looks good. Like, it's not, and teams will guard him because I think they look at him, it's like, that's a pretty good looking jump shot. That will probably go in more, like, not more often than not, but he could shoot high 30s from three, I think, quite realistically. And more importantly, he is going to get guarded, right, in a way that like Draymond, GP2, and others on the Warriors just don't. So the jump shot's there. He's now like, he can actually get by guys. Now, he can't get by guys like in terms of like actual perimeter defenders, but he can get like if he's got a guy his size who's like a little bit slow footed or a bigger guy, like he can get by guys from the perimeter. And then when he gets to the paint, I've been super impressed by his footwork and his ability to finish around the paint. Like he'll like drive baseline and then he'll go up and under to the other side of the rim to like use the rim to protect shot blockers and stuff like that. He'll like have step throughs where he gets himself like an open layup where it would otherwise looked like the guy was right on him. He'll be like dribbling to the rim and he might have a defender on his hip who's looking to go up and reject it kind of thing. And he'll like decelerate at the right time, let his defender like fly by and then finish a layup. Like that layup he had in the final 30 seconds yesterday was a good example of that, where he kind of kept the defender on his hip, and then you think, okay, well, the defender's going to try and reject this from behind, and he just slowed down, let his defender fly by, and then finished the easy layup. Like, he's just got real skill. Like, it's as simple as that. He's got underrated skill when we've often looked at this guy through a lens of he comes out, hustles, and, gets some rebounds and plays some hard defense, and that's like about it. No, like really skilled guy offensively, and then defensively he plays hard. And I'm not saying he's an elite defender, but if you play hard and you're 6'8", like you're clearly not a liability, are you? In that instance, so you've got that size. He's going to rebound a bit for you. Like, man, the dude is the dude is good. The dude is an actually good NBA player, which is quite a extraordinary development, and one that I don't think would have come if, one, Jimmy Butler hadn't have got injured, and two, if Kuminga was still healthy and on this team, then he's probably eating up a lot of those minutes as well, because Kuminga's more of like an offensive-minded guy who can go and get you a bucket. So the Warriors now lack small forward, power forward options, and it's actually kind of a good thing, because I think they're going to have to start playing some double big lineups, because they have Draymond and Gee, and that's about it in terms of power forwards. I think they're going to have to start playing a bit of double big lineups. I actually like Gee at the 3 as well in kind of double big lineups. And you can criticize and be frustrated by the Porzingis move, but it should allow the Warriors to play bigger. I mean, like, you bring in a guy who's 7'2", 7'3", so there's that for starters. But he's also obviously a very offensively skilled player who's going to stretch the floor for you as well. So you can play double big. I was looking at I'm going to get into the kind of the post-trade deadline rotation here. As Porzingis, I don't think he's going to make his debut against the Lakers on Saturday, but he's probably going to make his debut before the All-Star break, I hope. If I was looking at Al Horford's basketball reference page. So in the last 2 seasons with the Boston Celtics, Al Horford played 51% and 60% as a power forward. Okay, so 49 and 40% as a center. How much of his time do you think has been at center for the Warriors this season? 98%. He's played 2% as a power forward, which I'm assuming is like the odd minutes with Quentin Post, which we've seen a very short amount of time. Like, we've seen it here and there, but very limited minutes. So bringing Porzingis in, like, now you're going to probably, hopefully, play Horford and Porzingis together. They've got that chemistry from the Celtics. I think Horford's already spoken about the enjoyment in playing with Porzingis and what he can bring to the team, obviously. So I would expect that Horford will go back to the bench. He already went back. I thought some of the rotations early in yesterday's game were a bit bizarre, with the fact Draymond started as a small ball 5, which I don't like, obviously. And then secondly, having Horford and Post play together. Like, Draymond would start the small ball 5, and then Horford and Post were like playing minutes together at the end of the first quarter. I was like, how you're going double big after starting small? I just didn't really get that whatsoever. I think Draymond will still be in the starting lineup. And I think moving forward here, it's a fairly clear rotation, I would suggest. I think it's Steph, Melton, Moody. Melton got his first start in yesterday's game. Steph, Melton, Moody, Draymond, Porzingis. When you're obviously fully healthy, which there's question marks on KP, and there's clear question marks on Steph right now, who's got a knee injury, which to me doesn't sound like major, but it's like frustrating. It will like probably continue, and it's something the Warriors are going to have to manage. And for a team that the ceiling right now is essentially the first round of the playoffs, and that's about it. Like, why overexert Steph? Like, why ask him to play through pain? Essentially, what's the upside of that? There's no upside. So you might as well keep him out, and even if he is playing, like limit him to like 30 minutes a game, and that's it, right? You're going to convert Pat Spencer, I assume, from his two-way to the standard roster. So Pat was big yesterday, right? And I'm surprised, as I recall this 11 a.m. Saturday morning my time in Australia, I'm surprised that we haven't heard news of Pat Spencer being converted, because Steph is out tomorrow against the Lakers. You're going to need Pat Spencer to play and most likely start and most likely play big minutes. So I'm assuming that will happen in the next 24 hours or so. I could see, like, Gee is playing really well right now. Maybe he deserves to remain in the starting lineup. So maybe with Melton still on a minutes restriction, maybe you go Steph, Moody, Gee, Dre, Porzingis. Then you've actually got like a really like size, big lineup there. And I think you've got enough shooting, like Steph, Moody, Gee, Porzingis, all pretty good high-level three-point shooters. And then you got Dre there. Like, that's pretty good. And then off the bench, Pods, Richard, let's say one of Gee or Melton, Horford, and Post. I want the Warriors to lean big, okay? Because they can go big and still retain a lot of shooting, right? Because Horford, Post, Porzingis all shoot the three ball and shoot the three ball at a pretty high level, right? So lean big, hustle hard. Hopefully they're a decent rebounding team at the same time. And I don't know, like this team could still be, again, like the ceiling is the first round of the playoffs, but they can still win games. And I think like there's been a few ideas of, they should just tank the rest of the season. Have you seen what the teams below them in the West did at the deadline? Like the Clippers traded Harden and Zubac, like want no real interest, I don't think, in competing over the rest of the season. The Grizzlies obviously sold Jaren Jackson Jr. The Mavericks sold Anthony Davis. We're not going to see AD return for them this season. And therefore, are we going to see Kyrie return? Maybe not. Like Portland are like the only team where it's like, yeah, they're going to still be trying to win. But I just don't think Portland are a great team necessarily. Like they weren't buyers at the deadline either. So it's essentially impossible for the Warriors to tank. They've already won too many games. Like they're going to fall into the play-in tournament. They might lose a playing game as the 9 or 10 seed, or they might lose two as the 8th seed and not make the playoffs at all. But I'm still fairly confident this team can make the playoffs. And if you look at a team like the Suns, for example, like, yes, they were missing Devin Booker and Jalen Green yesterday, but do the Suns have more talent than the Warriors? No. Like, even without Jimmy Butler, like that's what I'm saying, with Butler on the sidelines, do the Suns still have more talent than the Warriors? I personally don't think so. Like, Steph and Booker are, Steph's better, but let's like call it a wash, right, between Steph and Booker. Jalen Green hasn't been a factor for them whatsoever. And then, like, if you just look at everyone else on the respective rosters, like Dylan Brooks is obviously like very good, okay. But like the Warriors have Draymond Green, they're bringing in Kristaps Porzingis, they've got DeAnthony Melton, they've got Al Horford. Like this team feels like it should be better than Phoenix still, to me. And so, can they get up to the 7 seed? Maybe. Who knows? Like, and I think it's more so. It's not necessarily looking at the Suns in terms of whether the Warriors can get past the Suns, but it's kind of looking at that, how the Suns have performed this season, saying there's still a pathway here to being a reasonable team. If you like playing hard, just playing hard can get you a long way, right? And in any level of sport, any level. Like I played a game of Social League a couple of weeks ago, and we were playing a team that was so much more superior than us. Like we suck, right? Like so much more superior than us. And we trailed 24-8, I think it was, or something, or 24-6 or something. Like we were down 16, 18 points at the end of the first quarter. And we were just giving up so many fast break layups and not getting back on defense. It was ridiculous. Like it was, and I was like, again, we're playing Social League, but I was pretty pissed off about it. And we were like, got into the huddle at the end of the first quarter. I was like, guys, let's try and make things a little bit difficult. Like, they're clearly a better team, but let's try and make things a little bit difficult. Yeah. Anyway, we end up losing the game, I think, by 8 or 10 points. Like, we won the last 3 quarters by 6 or 8 points. And I look back at the game and thought, I don't know how we did that. And then I was like, well, no, we did that because we actually played hard for the last 3 quarters. We played harder than they did. They were a far superior team, way more talented, way more shooting, way more skilled, whatever. But we won the last 3 quarters because we played hard. And so any level of sport, if you just play harder than your opposition, that can go a long way, even if you are outmatched from a skill and talent standpoint. So that's what I look at with this team, is like, play hard and then give yourself a chance just by doing that. And then who knows, if you just keep throwing up threes, and some games you're going to make 40%, and therefore you're going to be pretty hard to beat. Okay, and there's still enough talent on this roster, even without Jimmy, to be a playoff team and potentially move past the Suns, right? And kind of follow what they have done so far this season in terms of trading Kevin Durant, not necessarily having the same level of talent anymore, but playing harder, essentially, and being a far better team simply because of that. And having solid role players, which again, the Warriors, I think, still have some solid role players. The issue is when the role players are asked to do more, which is why obviously, it's going to be important for Steph to come back. It's going to be important for a guy like Melton, who, yes, is a role player, but he's a pretty high level role player. Like, he can get, create some offensively and stuff like that. So I just want the Warriors to lean big. I don't want, like, Post played 5.5 minutes yesterday. I don't want Post to be completely, because I said this with Steve the other night when we recorded the podcast after the Porzingis trade. I was like, Porzingis coming in, you got Horford, you got Draymond. Like, Post is probably going to start getting some DMPs. I don't want that. I'd rather them play double bigs with Horford and Post, or I don't think you're going to play Post and Porzingis, but you could play like Draymond and Post together, whatever. Like, there's combinations you can make here in the front court. And the last thing I want is, Post has got 3 straight DMPs, but we're on the second night of the back-to-back and Horford's out. Oh, yeah, and Porzingis is out as well, because I'm assuming he probably won't play back-to-backs either. Oh, Quinn Post, you're going to have to come out and play 25 minutes. Like, you got to give the dog a bone. You got to give him still probably 10 to 12 to 15 minutes a game, and then he's still got some kind of rhythm. He's still got some kind of opportunity for when he has to play. Like, there are going to be games where Horford and Porzingis are both out, and you're going to have, like, Trace Jackson Davis no longer exists on this roster. You can't even go to him. So Post is going to have to play like 25, 30 minutes. So throw the dog a bone, keep him in the rotation. There's enough shooting and versatility there in your front court options that you can do it. So that's what I hope. And then GP2 was actually good yesterday. I don't think he should be a part of the roster when fully healthy, but it's not going to be a roster that's fully healthy too much. So he's going to play. In fairness to GP2, he's actually been relatively healthy this season, which has been a surprise given the last few years, I suppose. Spencer is going to play when Steph isn't. So that's an obvious move there. Again, I'm assuming he'll get converted in the next 24 hours. And then Seth Curry, I don't know. Like, it's just a complete unknown at this point. Still got the sciatic issue. So hopefully he can come back and give something, because I think with Buddy out, like, there's a role there for an elite veteran sharpshooter. Like, the guys coming off the bench, your Pods, Will Richard, like, they're decent enough players, but they're not elite level sharpshooters like Seth Curry necessarily. So there's still a role there for him if he can get back. And hopefully Rick Celebrini can give Seth whatever he gave Horford, because when Horford came back from the sciatic injury on Christmas Day, he's looked like a completely different player since. So fingers crossed, the Warriors can still be a competitive team and win some games here. And we as fans need to try and find some enjoyment out of that, rather than just having this miserable but understandable attitude of, well, we're not doing anything this season, so what's the point of all this, essentially? Which, again, is a very reasonable attitude and mindset to have. But personally, I'm trying to shift away from that and trying to just find some positives and find some enjoyment for the remainder of the season. I'm going to finish up there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, leave some comments below on what you've made or thought of what I've said throughout this episode. Thanks to those of you that are listening via the podcast feed. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at Pop252. It's POK252 on X/Twitter. Golden State with Mates on the Patreon, on Instagram and TikTok as well. Warriors play the Lakers on Saturday. Steph is out. Porzingis, I'm assuming, will not play either. And Luka Doncic, I think, is questionable for the Lakers after leaving their game against the 76ers yesterday. Fingers crossed the Warriors might be able to get what would still be an upset win given, obviously, Steph is out. Thanks again, guys.